Hey everyone, how are you guys? So, we had an idea, and we'll see if this is a good idea or not, but as any of you who have been my former students know, one of my favorite things to do is to read books out loud. To read books, to share stories with my students. I've been at home for the last week or so now, and I've been really enjoying being at home, being able to spend time with my kids. And one of the things that I've been really enjoying doing, especially with my son, is reading books. We've been reading through lots and lots of books together, and it's been awesome. So here's what we're going to try for the next few weeks, and we'll see how long it goes, and we'll see if this works or not. I'm going to be reading from a book. I'll be reading a little section every day, probably not a complete chapter. We'll see how fast of a reader I am. We're going to read through a chunk every day, and I'll be putting out the video every day, and you can come and join us, and we'll be reading through a book together. And if you have the book at home, you can read along with me. What book are we doing? Okay, here's the book we're going to be starting with. I chose one of my favorite books by my favorite author. My favorite author of all time, bar none, is C.S. Lewis. He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. We are going to be reading one of the Chronicles of Narnia. We are going to be reading the sixth of the seven Chronicles of Narnia. The Silver Chair. I'm going to move this up a little closer to the camera so you can see a little bit of the artwork on there. This artwork, interestingly enough, for this edition of The Silver Chair, is by Chris Van Allsburg. Ring any bell? Chris Van Allsburg is the author and illustrator of a lot of my favorite picture books. Zathura, Jumanji, The Polar Express, The Bad Ant. He wrote lots and lots of books, and he illustrated them, and he has beautiful illustrations. And so he lent his artistic ability to this edition of The Silver Chair, and that's really cool. So we are going to be reading The Chronicles of Narnia, The Silver Chair. And we're going to read the first chunk right now, and you can tune in again tomorrow, and I'll read the next chunk tomorrow. And we'll see how this goes. If you have this book at home, you can go grab it, and you can read with me. All right, so here we go. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. The Silver Chair. Chapter 1. Behind the Gym. It was a dull autumn day, and Jill Pole was crying behind the gym. She was crying because they had been bullying her. This is not going to be a school story, so I shall say as little as possible about Jill's school, which is not a pleasant subject. It was co-educational, a school for both boys and girls, what used to be called a mixed school. Some said it was not nearly so mixed as the minds of the people who ran it. These people had the idea that boys and girls should be allowed to do what they liked. And unfortunately, what 10 or 15 of the biggest boys and girls liked best was bullying the others. All sorts of things, horrid things, went on, which at an ordinary school would have been found out and stopped in half a term. But at this school, they weren't. Or even if they were, the people who did them were not expelled or punished. The head said they were interesting psychological cases and sent for them and talked to them for hours. And if you knew the right sort of things to say to the head, the main result was that you became rather a favorite than otherwise. And that was why Jill Pole was crying on that dull autumn day on the damp little path which runs between the back of the gym and the shrubbery. And she hadn't nearly finished her cry when a boy came round the corner of the gym whistling with his hands in his pockets. He nearly ran into her. "Can't you look where you're going?" "Can't you look where you're going?" said Jill Pole. "All right," said the boy, "you needn't start." And then he noticed her face. "I say, Pole, what's up?" Jill only made faces, the sort you make when you're trying to say something, but find that if you speak, you'll start crying again. "Oh, it's them as usual, I suppose," said the boy grimly, digging his hands further into his pockets. Jill nodded. There was no need for her to say anything, even if she could have said it. They both knew. "Now look here," said the boy, "there's no good us all—" He meant well, but he did talk rather like someone beginning a lecture, and Jill suddenly flew into a temper, which is quite a likely thing to happen if you've been interrupted in a cry. "Oh, go away and mind your own business," she said. Nobody asked you to come barging in, did they? And you're a nice person to start telling me or us what we ought to do, aren't you? I suppose you mean we ought to all spend our time sucking up to them and currying favor and dancing attendance on them like you do. Oh, said the boy, sitting down on the grassy bank at the edge of the shrubbery and very quickly getting up again because the grass was soaking wet. His name, unfortunately, was Eustace Scrubb, but he wasn't a bad sort. Paul, he said, is that fair? Have I been doing anything of that sort this term? Didn't I stand up to Carter about the rabbit? And didn't I keep the secret about Spivens, under torture too? And didn't I... I don't know, and I don't care, sobbed Jill. Scrubb saw that she wasn't quite herself yet, and very sensibly offered her a peppermint. He had one too. Presently Jill began to see things in a clearer light. I'm sorry, Scrubb, she said presently. That wasn't fair. You have done all that this term. Oh, then wash out last term if you can, said Eustace. I was a different chap then. I was... Gosh, what a little tick I was. Well, honestly, you were, said Jill. You think there's been a change then, said Eustace. Oh, it's not only me, said Jill. Everyone's been saying so. They noticed it. Eleanor Blackskin heard Adela Pennyfeather talking about it in our changing room yesterday. She said, someone's got a hold of that Scrubb kid. He's quite unmanageable this term. We shall have to attend to him next. Eustace gave a shudder. Everyone at the experiment house knew what it was like being attended to by them. Both children were quiet for a minute. The drops dripped off the laurel leaves. Why were you so different last term? Said Jill presently. Oh, a lot of things happened to me on the holidays, said Eustace mysteriously. What sort of things? Asked Jill. Eustace didn't say anything for quite a long time, and then he said, Look here, Pole. You and I hate this place about as much as anybody can hate anything, don't we? I know I do, said Jill. Then I think I can trust you. Good of you, said Jill. Yes, but this is a really terrific secret, Pole. I say, are you good at believing things? I mean, things that everyone else would laugh at? I've never had the chance, said Jill. But I think I could be. Could you believe me if I said I'd been right out of the world, outside this world, last holiday? I wouldn't know what you meant. Well, don't let's bother about worlds then. Supposing I told you I'd been in a place where animals can talk and where there are enchantments and dragons and, well, all the sorts of things you have in fairy tales. Scrubb felt terribly awkward as he said this and got red in the face. How did you get there? Said Jill. She also felt curiously shy. The only way you can. By magic, said Eustace, almost in a whisper. I was with my two cousins, and we were just whisked away. They'd been there before. Now that they were talking in whispers, Jill somehow felt it easier to believe. And then suddenly a horrible suspicion came over her, and she said, so fiercely that for the moment she looked like a tigress, If I find you've been pulling my leg, I'll never speak to you again. Never, never, never. I'm not, said Eustace. I swear I'm not. I swear by everything. Well, when I was at school, one would have said, I swear by the Bible, but Bibles were not encouraged at the experiment house. All right, said Jill, I believe you. And tell no one. What do you take me for? They were very excited as they said this, but when they had said it, and Jill looked round and saw the dull autumn sky and heard the drip of the leaves, and thought of all the hopelessness of the experiment house. It was a 13-week term, and they were still 11 weeks from the end. She said, But after all, what's the good? We're not there, we're here, and we jolly well can't get there. Or can we? That's what I've been wondering, said Eustace. When we came back from that place, someone said that the two Pevensey kids, that's my cousins, could never go there again. It was their third time, you see. I suppose they've had their share, but he never said I couldn't. Surely he would have said so, unless he meant that I was to get back. And I can't help wondering, could we... Do you mean do something to make it happen? Eustace nodded. You mean we might draw a circle on the ground and write in queer letters in it, And stand inside and recite charms and spells? Well, said Eustace after he had thought hard about it for a bit, I believe that was the sort of thing I was thinking of, though I never did it, and now that it comes to the point, I have an idea that all those circles and things are rather rot. I don't think he'd like them. It would look as if we thought that we could make him do things, but really we can only ask him. Who is this person that you keep talking about? They call him Aslan in that place, said Eustace. What a curious name. Not so half so curious as himself, said Eustace. But let's get on. It can't do any harm just asking. Let's stand side by side like this, and we'll hold our arms out in front of us with the palms down. I'll show you a picture. Them standing with their palms down. Whose island? Oh, sorry. And we'll hold our arms out in front of us with the palms down like they did in Ramondu's island. Whose island? I'll tell you about that another time. And he might like us to face east? Let's see, where is the east? I don't know, said Jill. It's an extraordinary thing about girls that they never know the points of the compass, said Eustace. You don't know either, said Jill indignantly. Yes, I do, and if you would just keep from interrupting, I've got it now. That's the east, facing up into the laurels. Now, will you say the words after me? What words? Said Jill. The words I'm going to say, of course, answered Eustace. Now, and he began. Aslan, 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 repeated Jill. Please, let the two of us go into... At that moment, from the other side of the gym, they heard shouting. Paul! Yes, I know where she is. She's blubbering behind the gym. Shall I fetch her out? Jill and Eustace gave one glance at each other, dived under the laurels, and began scrambling up the steep, earthy slope of the shrubbery at a speed which did them great credit. Owing to the curious methods of teaching at the experiment house, one did not learn much French or math or Latin or things of that sort, but one did learn a lot about getting away quietly and quickly when they were looking for one. After about a minute's scramble, they stopped to listen and knew by the noises they heard that they were being followed. Oh, if only the door were open again, said Scrub as they went on, and Jill nodded. For at the top of the shrubbery was a high stone wall, and in that wall a door by which you could get out onto the open moor. The door was nearly always locked, but there had been a few times when people had found it open, or perhaps there had only been one time. But you may imagine how the memory of even just one time kept people hoping and trying the door, for if it should happen to be unlocked, it would be a splendid way of getting outside the school grounds without being seen. I'm going to pause there for today. The chapters are pretty long in this book, and I can't get through an entire chapter in the length of one of these videos. So I'm going to pause there for today with Jill and Eustace running for the gate, trying to escape from them. Okay, thank you for joining us, and we will pick up again here tomorrow. See you later.